Hi guys, welcome to today's show. I've got a fantastic guest on today, and he's a good friend of mine. His name is George Herrera. So George is from the California Bay Area, and he grew up on a council estate and kind of experienced a challenging childhood. We'll talk about that a little bit later. He moved over to the UK, and he's now based in Manchester in 2017 to be with his now wife, Katie. They got married last summer, and he's just become a dad to their beautiful baby son, Hunter Levi Herrera.
Yeah.
Who I still haven't met yet, and I've seen pictures, so got to come around soon. George is currently studying theology. This man of God is balancing his studies, lack of sleep, being a husband, being a father, and he's also recently set up this incredible charity, which we'll delve into as well. So George, great to have you here. Welcome.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So George, I guess a good place to start is, could you briefly tell us a little bit about your upbringing, your childhood, and what that was like for you?
Yeah, sure. So grew up in Palo Alto, California. My mother is schizophrenic and my dad has been a drug addict my whole life. And so really what that means is just a rough childhood growing up. Went through a lot of poverty, a lot of struggle, trials and tribulations. And I had to grow up really, really quickly. And I had to learn from my mistakes.
And at that point, did you have a faith at that point? At what time, what stage in your life did that kind of come into it?
Yeah, so when I was 23 years old, I just woke up one day and just realized I was alone. Like I was just completely by myself, didn't have anything or anybody. And I was just dislocated from the world really because I'd be in a room full of people and still feel alone. And to be honest with you, as a Christian, I know that the weight of my sins kind of just became unbearable at that point. And I had a friend who was a neighbor, and he came over one day. He said he could visibly see that something was wrong with me. And he just shared his faith with me that night. And that was the first time at 23 years old I had heard of Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. And I accepted it right then and there on that street. And ever since then, things have been amazing.
That's so good. And so that was still over in America.
Yeah.
And then what was the journey like going from there to ending up here in Manchester?
Well, it's funny because, Jesus isn't a quick fix. And I heard Furtick say this the other day, he's not cosmetic surgery. And so things really got tough for me after that. Things got like a little bit worse, but I understand now that I had to go through that type of wilderness to get to where I'm at today. I started going to church, started getting involved with Bible studies, started doing an online certificate with the Assemblies of God. And when I finished that, I just really felt my faith really grow a lot, and it was really beneficial to me and my character. I started getting involved in church ministry a bit, and I don't know why or how, God just kind of put in my heart to go to Bible college. And I just Googled Bible colleges in England, and the first one that popped up was Nazarene Theological College in Manchester. Filled out the application, and I got accepted. And I just put all of my belongings in 2 suitcases, and I got on a flight, and it's just been amazing. It's been the biggest blessing ever since.
Wow, that is a leap of faith.
Absolutely.
And then, so at some point during that stage was when I guess you and Katie met for the first time?
Yeah, as soon as I got to Didsbury, I met Katie, and we just started going out, and just fell in love. Love Katie, amazing woman. She does ministry as well, and yeah, I just, God definitely knows what He's doing, and we just kind of let Him dictate where we go.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, brilliant. That's so good. And so currently in your studies, what's the plan with that? Or have you thought that far ahead?
Yeah, so I'm entering my 3rd year of Bible college now at Nazarene Theological College. I'm doing placement with the Message Trust on the prisons team. So it's similar to prison chaplaincy, but they call us outreach workers. So when I finish, I would like to do a master's degree in theology, and I would like to continue to work in prison ministry.
Tell us more. I'm interested to hear more about that prison ministry. What does that involve, and what made you choose that particular ministry in the first place?
So for me, growing up in California, I seen how easily young people can get kind of guided on the wrong path, kind of led astray. And I felt that because I knew I had the experience of seeing and being a part of that, I could really help people, young people. So I started off doing youth work in North Manchester, and I didn't feel that it was my calling. So the school did a really good job, and they asked me if I wanted to go into prison. I said, yeah. I started going. I'm an outreach worker at HMP Forest Bank in Salford, and I work with the young offenders. And so it's really, really hard work, really difficult, but it's the best work that I've ever done. And I think prison is the best place to bring the good news, because these inmates, these men and women, they don't expect to hear good news. And so when you tell them about Jesus, it just, you see the transformation happen before your eyes. And it's about bringing hope to the hopeless. And I just
Mm.
find it an absolute honor and a privilege to work with those men and women.
That's so, yeah, that's incredibly rewarding. I love that, bringing hope to the hopeless. You said it is difficult, it's challenging. Like, could you share a little bit about some of the experiences that make it really challenging?
Yeah, so part of what I do when I run my groups and when I start working with people is, especially in prison, you try to get them to learn good coping habits, a bit of anger management, and it's kind of teaching them a little bit of life skills to go along with the Bible study, to go along with the discipleship. And a lot of these guys, the concept of community, of forgiveness, of love, of sacrifice, these are foreign concepts to a lot of the men and women. And so introducing those things, and also being incarnational and showing them these things in my life and in my person when I deal with them. And so it is interesting because they don't know what forgiveness is, as crazy as that may sound, but I've seen God do amazing things in their lives, and they're learning how to take steps towards a different life.
Sure. And I suppose one of the initial biggest barriers to overcome is trust. You coming in as somebody that they don't know and maybe questioning your motives. Did you
Yeah,
ever, is that common?
yeah, 100%. I think one of the things that I've picked up along the way is understanding the importance and the power of relationship, and creating an environment through my personal relationships with them that would foster trust. Because I could go in there and I tell them, oh, I'm at Bible college, or oh, I'm a minister, or I do this, and they would blank me for that. That means absolutely nothing. If I told them I was a part of a nation of priests, or part of a royal priesthood, it doesn't mean anything to them. And so just kind of sitting down and just showing them that I'm just a normal guy like they are. One of the things that we do is that we sit down at the table of fellowship with them, share a couple biscuits and a couple cups of coffee or tea, and we just sit down and chat with them a lot of the times, and that's how we build relationships with the men.
Yeah, great. And does the relationship continue like throughout their sentence and maybe and afterwards as well?
Yeah, so my job is to journey with them through their prison sentence, and after they get released, it is my job to find them a Christian accommodation, whether it be with the Message at the Oaks or any other Christian accommodation. And I give them my contact, and yeah, keep in touch whenever they need anything, or if they just want to chat. But there is a handoff point as well, because my responsibility is to the inmates that are incarcerated.
Sure.
But we do make sure that they find a good church, that they find a good pastor, that they find a community that they could be a part of that's supportive to them.
Sure. That's such a beautiful and powerful ministry, right? It's just restorative, and when they come
Yeah.
back into the community, it's really like life changing, because you think if that transformation didn't happen while they're in prison, then there's every chance when they come out they haven't really learned anything about it, just felt
Mhm.
punished for a while, and then just repeat those same old patterns that they were into before.
Yeah, 100%. I think one of the things we emphasize is that God is with them now. God is with them, walking alongside them, even in prison, and that the opportunity to begin change doesn't start when they leave prison. It starts that very moment when we sit down and have a chat with them.
Mm. It's amazing. Thank you for doing such amazing work there, George.
Mhm.
So you also mentioned that you recently started a charity. As
Right.
if you're not busy enough. Let's add
Mhm.
something else on.
Yeah.
Tell us about the charity.
So I started my own charity. It's called Bright Light Labs. And what our mission is to create virtual reality experiences that will aid the church, youth groups to engage young people and unchurched youth. So what we're doing is basically grabbing narrative from the Bible and putting that in a VR experience that is interactive and engaging for young people to foster learning, to foster a fresh expression of the Bible, and to have people understand Jesus a whole lot better. And so it is intentional. It is intentional. We're not using testimony or anything like that. We're using straight narrative from the Bible.
That sounds like really cutting edge stuff.
Yeah. So I'm in 3019 right now. So yeah.
And so it's a virtual reality. So I guess you put something on your head,
Yeah.
and then you place yourself in the stories of the Bible.
Correct. Yeah. So you'll be fully immersed in the biblical narrative, and we're excited about that because VR is still technology that's being developed and it's getting better and better. And so it's not like everybody has a VR headset at home, but when you actually do put one on and you start using it, like with different experiences or even video games, it's actually amazing. And so we're just looking to wow people with Jesus and the Bible and VR.
Yeah. It sounds like you're on the right track to wow people. And you can be. Is it third person? Are you interacting as yourself, or are you jumping into the characters and being?
No, you would definitely take the role of biblical characters. So
Even in Jesus?
you would be Jesus. Obviously, the controls would be limited. You're not going to be
Yeah.
running around doing things. Then with other biblical characters, the disciples, Prophet Daniel, Prophet Jeremiah, you wouldn't have freedom of control like typical video games. But yeah, you would definitely take on the person of Jesus.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. And so, I mean, it doesn't sound like a short process. Where are you in the development of that? What's the time frame kind of look like?
Sure. So right now we're actually making a 2-minute demo and creating a storyboard, a 3D storyboard. So we're still kind of at the beginning stages, but it's looking really, really promising. And demos should be done before the end of the year. After that, we'll keep applying for funding, and then the finished product should be done sometime 2020.
Amazing. Sign me up, George. Put me on the list.
Gotcha. You're going to be the first one.
You heard it here first, guys. Wow. I mean, that's clearly your faith is central to your life, and it has been since you gave your life to Jesus at 23. How then do you continue to evolve that relationship? How does God direct your choices? I mean, I assume he has a part to play in you making the decision to set up a charity. How does that work, the decision-making process with God involved?
I think first and foremost is prayer. I make sure I deliberately take out a certain chunk of time each day to pray, to read my Bible, and to listen to God's voice. And I let him speak into my life. It's also a discernment of the things that are happening in my life, certain things that I'm being exposed to along the way. And a lot of the times it'll be in retrospect. I'll be like, okay, I seen this, I seen that. Those two equal this. And so, for example, with the video game charity that I started, I went to a spirituality and video game seminar. And I thought that was amazing. I
Wow.
really got inspired by that. And on top of that, doing the youth work at Nazarene Theological College, I put 2 and 2 together, and they came out with this. And so it is mostly just kind of discerning what's going on in my life, but also letting God lead me by the Spirit. And just because, to be honest with you, I felt like Noah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how, I don't know when, never did this before, but I know that God put it in my heart, and he's just opened doors along the way. And I'm just knocking on each and every single one of them to see which one opens and which one doesn't. But we've gone pretty far so far. So, yeah.
Yeah. And that's really key, something you mentioned there, George, that, God presents those doors along the way and you're knocking on every single one. Like there's this two-way interaction where you're taking action and you're pressing forward and you're trying new things. It's like taking risks, right?
Absolutely. So for me, it is, if I'm a fall forward. And I'm not one of those people that I'm not scared to go out and just try something new, try something different. I think my wife, Katie, the first time I told her about the video game thing, she was like, yeah, huh, okay. So, you know what I mean? She's just like, okay, whatever, George. And now that we've gone this far, now she's just like, yeah, come on. Like, she's seen that God is actually doing something, and he's doing something new in both of our lives. And it is just being led by the Spirit and moving in faith. Every single time I just go in faith, but it's also a confidence that God is going to get it done.
Yeah. I love that. Just faith in action, right?
Absolutely.
Faith requires the action.
Mm.
That's great. George, can I ask you a question? What do you see around you? And this might have already cropped up, but what do you see around you that you really want to fight for?
With like a social justice?
Or anything, a bigger cause. Yeah.
So I guess for me, what I want to fight for, because my life is fully centered on Christ, it is for the younger generations to know Jesus. I've been studying the book of Jeremiah a lot recently, and I've been looking at the exile. And what the Babylonians used to do, they used to try to get the Israelites, the Jews, to forget their story. And they wanted their children to grow up as Babylonians and to forget Egypt and Moses and Abraham. And I kind of see that happening nowadays because young people just aren't interested. They're just not engaging. I read an article on the Church of England newspaper. It said that 2/3 of churches that are part of the Church of England churches, they don't even have young people in them. And so for me, I see a younger generation just crying out, needing to be guided, needing to be led to Jesus, because people are just entertaining themselves to death with Instagram, with Netflix. And it's just, for me, it is helping people avoid the mistakes that I've made when I was younger.
Mm. Yeah, it's so powerful that you've been able to turn that experience, and maybe it's like connecting the dots going backwards. After you became a Christian, to see how what you went through and where you pull out the value in that to influence your ministry and to influence your dreams and the bigger goals going forward.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely think that it's my experience in gangs, in drugs, doing those types of things, that there is no purpose in them. There is no reward for those things at the end of the day. And for me to be able to lead young people away from those things, I definitely feel it's a calling.
Mm. And have you completely disconnected from your upbringing and that community, or are there still connections?
No, there's still connections, but I'm preaching to them every day.
Amazing.
They know that I'm a Christian. They know what I do with my life each and every single day. And yeah, they hear the gospel when they get back in touch with me or when I send them a message. And it's funny because a lot of my friends from my neighborhood or from the estate, they're still doing the things that we used to do, but now they message me and they want prayer, or they message me and they want some advice. And so I give it to them from my angle, and I think they really appreciate it.
That's amazing. That's really good, because sometimes it can be tricky, right? Going back in, because they're seeing you as a different person. It's like, well, where's the old George? Where's that guy?
Yeah.
So it's really, amazing that you still kept that bond.
Yeah. And I think you are right, though, that a lot of the times they'll be like, oh, you're still the same. You're still George. But I've learned that time is the best testimony. And so through time, they come to understand that it is all about Jesus for me.
That's amazing. That's so good. One final question, George, before you go, and thank you so much for sharing the impact that you're making for the kingdom. Fantastic stuff. Going forward, how do you intend to increase your impact?
For me, the number one thing that I learned in my life, that my love for Jesus has to continue to grow. And the way that I do that, me personally, is through study. And so being at Nazarene Theological College has just opened up so many doors, so many opportunities, and has just opened my mind up to new concepts, ideas. And so for me, it would be continuing higher education, going on, doing a master's degree, but also fully working in ministry and using my skills and my passion to just make an impact in people's lives.
Thank you, George. It's a privilege to call you my friend. It's great to know you. I'm glad you came over to the UK, and we should definitely hang out soon and catch up. but I
Definitely.
appreciate your time today.
Yes, anytime, Andy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George. Bye for now.